Hello and welcome to the Elliot Omanson Show. Today, I just kind of want to have a bit of a conversation. It's hard to have a conversation with just one person, I know, so maybe that's not the proper word. But, it's interesting to me as I've been watching the story unfold on Greenland. Initially, my thoughts are this is stupid. I kind of chalked it up to naming the Gulf of America, and a lot of other things Trump does. Sometimes I've had the thought that a lot of what he does is just designed to send people scurrying in different directions to distract them, dilute their efforts, their energy. It's basically just a full-scale blitz in as many directions as possible. But the more that this Greenland thing's been in the news, the more I realize there's actually a really significant problem that I think the Greenland acquisition highlights. And that is the lack of education in America. I know for myself, I knew nothing about Greenland. There was nothing in our educational system that ever taught me about it, educated me about it. The most education I got on it was playing the game Risk. Just so you know, there's a super simple strategy if you want to win that game every time you play. Compile all your forces in South America, let everybody fight over North America and Europe, and once they've lost all their soldiers, you just move in, take North America, you put your spots in Greenland, Russia, and Chile at the bottom, and you can hold that forever, and you'll eventually win the game. So that's all I knew about Greenland, and it never dawned on me it was actually of literally strategic importance, not just on a board game. But I also didn't know all the different times that the United States has actually attempted to acquire it. All right. And this kind of led me down a rabbit hole of, about Louisiana Purchase. I think we bought Alaska. I know we've purchased other places. What makes it okay at some point in the past for your country to have acquired land and property through buying it? And do you really think that they bought it without any kind of external pressure? You think the negotiation was, how much do you want for it? Here, let me pay it to you. You don't think there was actual negotiation and tactics and strategy to be able to acquire that property for the least amount of money possible, right? And so I just started looking into this stuff, right? So Greenland, multiple attempts. 1967 and 1968 under Secretary of State William Seward as part of the Arctic expansion. 1910 was a proposed swap with a Philippine territory. 1946, post-World War II offer of $100 million for military reasons during the Cold War. 1955, the Joint Chiefs proposal. And then with Trump, 2019 and 2025 for security and resources. All right. Now, you think this is the only place? There were several 19th century efforts to buy Cuba from Spain, including proposals from the 1840s to 1850s amid Southern interest in expanding slavery and strategic control of the Caribbean. Spain refused, leading to tensions that contributed to the Spanish-American War. Iceland proposed in 1867 alongside Greenland by Seward for similar expansionist reasons. No formal offer was made due to lack of U.S. congressional support. I don't even know how to say this one, but the isthmus of Tehuantepec. We need, what we need, Nathaniel? We need a linguistic consultant for our podcast. No, but in 1847, the United States attempted to purchase whatever the hell the whatever from Mexico for a potential canal or railroad access across southern Mexico as an alternative to Panama. All of Mexico. 1848, Mexican-American War, some U.S. officials proposed buying or annexing the entire country. Wouldn't that have been a smart thing to have accomplished, right? Can anybody look at Mexico today and think we shouldn't have acquired them, right? Other less documented or informal ideas, parts of Canada, Baja California, the Dominican Republic. Now, they weren't subjected to serious attempts, but they were all ideas that were floated of us acquiring them, right? And something I really think ties into this, but I haven't really fleshed the idea out a whole lot, is I watched speeches from Clinton, Obama, and CNN going a ride along with ICE agents during Obama. All news around those. The CNN segment, mind-blowing, 100% positive, right? And so I can't help but think that if this was presented by anybody other than Trump, or let me just put it this way, this was presented by a Democrat, you'd have a very different take on it all. Because clearly you can go watch the immigration debate, and it's very differently presented, right? And it's all out there for you to watch. But then there's places where we succeeded. Everybody knows the Louisiana Territory, 1803, bought from France for $15 million, which would have been $387,000 a day, adding 828,000 square miles to parts of 15 states. Florida, acquired from Spain via the Adams-Onis Treaty. Notice the word treaty. For $5 million, covering 72,000 square miles of modern Florida, parts of Alabama and Mississippi. This resolved border disputes and eliminated Spanish claims in the Southeast. The Mexican Secession, 1848, purchased from Mexico for $15 million via the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo after the Mexican-American War. The Gadsden Purchase, 1853, bought from Mexico for $10 million, acquiring 30,000 square miles of southern Arizona and New Mexico, so we could put a southern transcontinental railroad route in. 1867, Alaska, purchased from Russia for $7.2 million, initially mocked as Seward's folly. You really think Alaska for $7.2 million was someone's folly? The Philippine Islands. I didn't even know we own these things. And maybe we don't. We don't anymore. We gave them their independence. But we acquired from Spain for $20 million after the Spanish-American War, held it as a territory until their independence in 1946. And the U.S. Virgin Islands, purchased from who? Just in case you think that you believe all the news stories, that they're not willing to sell us some shit. The U.S. Virgin Islands were purchased from, yours truly, Denmark. The same people that own Greenland. And we paid them $25 million in gold, adding 133 square miles in the Caribbean for naval defense near the Panama Canal. So I'm just sitting here, and I can't help but think, if we had a legitimate educational system, that instead of teaching all the fucking shit and nonsense that I watch my kids get crammed down their throat every day, you actually learned legitimate history. You actually learned about why, how the United States purchased places, where they wanted to acquire them, why they wanted to acquire them. I just can't help but think that as you hear about Trump wanting to acquire Greenland, you just might have a different perspective about it, right? And if anybody had ever taught you how to negotiate, you also would understand what's happening when somebody's blustering about military or tariffs. Like no one goes into a deal willing to accept whatever the other side is willing to, or initially wants to take. You go into a deal with methods of leverage. That leverage can be military, it can be economical, it can be political, it can be public, like opinion. All these things allow you to create a leverage in order to get the best deal possible. And I just can't help but think that if anybody in America actually understood anything about our history and how we got to where we are and why we've done the things we've done in regards to acquiring land, I don't understand why this is something new and why it's so extremely fought against. To be honest, I really don't care to see however many people live on Greenland added into America as liberal leftist voters, and I can't help but think that that's probably what they would all be. But of course, I don't really know what the overarching plan is. I trust Trump enough to know that maybe they'll do it like the Virgin Islands, maybe they'll do it like Puerto Rico, to where those people don't actually get a vote, but they're just a territory, right? I imagine people on his team have thought of this. Anyways, and then you have the tariff scare again going on. Again, just a point of leverage. And Like, I mean, I don't know. I'm confused as to how people are watching this and don't get it. So if you disagree with me, if you think I'm crazy, if I'm missing something, if you think my perspective on it's completely wild and off, let me know in the comments. This is Elliot.